Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I am here to start my queer superhero reading vlog. I've been wanting to do this vlog for a long time. I initially wanted to do it last year back in 2023, and it's June of 2024. So just to give you an idea of how bad I am about getting around to doing themed vlogs. I just don't do them very often. If it's because of my TBR, it makes it difficult for me to get all the books that I need on my TBR, and I usually try not to read too much outside of my TBR so I don't have to take like a punishment. That's something that I'm gonna have to work on a little bit. Not that I have too many ideas for themed vlogs, but this one I have been wanting to do for a while, and I have 3 books that I would like to read during this vlog. The first of them is going to be Hero by Perry Moore. This is the book I'm going to start with. This one I believe is a young adult. I want to say it's young adult, not middle grade, but I'm assuming that this is going to be the youngest book that I am going to be reading, and as far as I know, it's also the oldest on this list. This book is following the point of view of a young boy who is really talented at basketball, but unfortunately that's not helping him win any friends because he is the son of a superhero who became a pariah after a really bad accident, and the league that his father had worked for turned their back on his father, and at that same time his mother had also disappeared. So there's a lot of drama revolving around his family, and a lot of people unfortunately turned against them and just want nothing to do with him. However, he himself discovers that he has superpowers as well, and the league approaches him to join them, which he is kind of reluctant to do because he doesn't want to trigger his father or anything along those lines, or betray his father in any way by going to work for those that have in turn betrayed his father. But he does really want to learn how to use his powers and become a part of a team, and so he decides to do so, and he joins this team of kind of like misfits. And while they are working for the league, they start to realize that there might be a bit of a conspiracy theory going on, so they start to look into that. So this book was recommended to me by TJ Klune. Actually, I remember him saying that he really enjoyed this book, which is why I picked it up at half price books when I happened to stumble across it, and I am super excited to finally be getting to it, and hopefully I enjoy it. And this will be the first book that I will be picking up. The other 2 books that I will be picking up, no surprise, is going to be The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. I'll give more of a synopsis of it when I actually pick this book up, but obviously this vlog kind of started because I wanted to read these 2 books together. So this will be the second book that I pick up. Really excited to pick up another TJ Klune book. Haven't had the best of luck with his newer stuff, you know, the kind of traditionally published stuff, so I'm hoping that this is a hit for me. I've heard relatively good things about this story, so fingers crossed. And the final book I decided to put on here is called Lovesick Gods by Amanda Moyweisen, and this is a KU book, and this should be an adult novel, so it's probably going to be relatively different from the other 2 books, but it is queer and it involves superheroes, and I'm very intrigued by this cover and by the synopsis, which, like I said, I will talk about a little bit more once I actually get around to reading it. So I decided to go ahead and throw it into this vlog as well. Talking about throwing, I just threw the book onto the floor, so I can't hold it up anymore. That being said, I'm gonna go ahead and do some reading before I have to start work. It is a Wednesday today, so we are about halfway through the week. I'm kind of hoping to finish Hero by Friday because I am actually planning on doing a 48-hour readathon just kind of by myself this weekend, and I'm going to be doing a separate vlog for that, so I would have to put this vlog on hold over the weekend in order to do that, and it would be really nice if I had completed the book in order to do that and not kind of just like awkwardly stop you know, in the middle of the book or anything. But we will see how much time I have to do for reading, just because I am planning on doing that 48-hour readathon. I have to move some things that I would usually do during the weekend into the week, kind of like chore wise and whatnot. So that will unfortunately take some time away from reading, but it is what it is, and we will do as much as we can. And I will go ahead and check in with you in a little while once I've gotten a little way into the book and give you my initial thoughts.
I am once again regretting the fact that I have misplaced my Big Hero 6 Baymax themed bookmark. I have no idea where it is. It might be lost forever, which is very sad. So we're gonna go ahead and go with the second best option, which is my Full Metal Alchemist.
Alright guys, here for a initial check-in. Hopefully the wind and birds aren't too loud, but I am 28 pages into the book, just finished the first chapter. So far we just followed our character as he was at a basketball game and someone got injured there, and that is kind of where he discovered that he has powers, because it seems like they might be kind of like a healing ability. Weirdly enough, no one really seems to be like super reacting to it, and neither is he. He's just kind of like, oh yeah, some guy's bone was sticking out of him and now it's not. So you know, we're all just kind of chill about it, or maybe no one has fully like acknowledged or, you know, understood what has happened. It also seems that our character has seizures quite often. Not sure what those are caused by, but that may be some sort of chronic illness representation that is present in the book. Now, I'm trying to figure out this world a little bit, because our character, he works or volunteers at this kind of like community center where he would read to kids and would read to, or like tutor younger children. And one day the person who ran that facility told them that some important people were coming to the facility to kind of observe something for budgeting, but before they were able to kind of tell him what they were there for, he guessed that they were there for book burnings. And I was like, book burnings? Like, what kind of world are we living in where there's like book burnings happening? And it seems that a lot of their reading lists are really restricted. So I'm wondering if this is some sort of like dystopian society that we are dealing with, because that's kind of interesting. We also just figured out that our character is gay, which it seems like no one really knew it, but for some reason people on the other basketball team knew that he was gay and they kind of outed him, and it seems that his dad didn't know and doesn't seem, at least at this point, to be responding to it really well. His father seems like someone who really wanted to make like a normal life, family, kids, all that jazz for himself, and between him being kind of disfigured through his job and having society kind of turn their back on him and his wife leaving him, he kind of feels like that's falling apart. And our character believes that him finding out that his son is queer and will never like get married and have kids and all that jazz, which queer people can do, but you know, people think not, kind of shattered his dad's chances of having that normal family life that he wanted. So hopefully his dad comes around, and maybe he was just kind of thrown off by figuring this out all of a sudden, and not that he turns his back on his son or is like homophobic or anything like that. On top of that, there is a boy that was mentioned who started the reading program at this community center that our character works for, and it kind of seems like they only crossed paths one time, and our character kind of made a fool of himself by thinking that this character didn't speak English because he had a very heavy accent and had kind of been staring at our character, not responding to what our character was saying. saying. So our character kind of jumped to the conclusion that he didn't speak English, which he did, and obviously he always wanted to apologize for that because he's like, oh, that was a idiot move, I'm so sorry. But they didn't meet again until this basketball game, and this boy was actually the one whose leg got broken and that our character healed. And when he was leaving, this character was kind of like making intense eye contact with him, so I'm kind of wondering what's gonna become of that. The enemies to lovers side of me wants to say that maybe they're going to become, you know, a romantic partnership, but who knows. One more thing I want to mention, and I feel like I can't talk on it too much just because I haven't read too much of the story yet, and because my knowledge on this topic, historic moment in real life, is not spectacular, but I was reading the author's note and he mentioned that the father in this book is based off of his father, who was a veteran of the Vietnam War. And I don't know too much about the Vietnam War except the fact that it was one of those wars that people are not super proud of. It's not like the soldiers who went and won World War II. This was kind of more one of those wars where we're like, that probably should have never happened kind of situation. And I'm wondering if the author kind of wants to comment on the fact that the soldiers went to Vietnam on behalf of their country to serve their country, and they did not come back the heroes like they expected they would. In fact, their country kind of looked down on them and kind of turned their back on them. I have to admit, I don't know the response to the veterans of the Vietnam War, but I'm just assuming, based off the few things that I do know, that it's just not as good as veterans of other wars. So I'm wondering if that is kind of the commentary he's trying to make about the fact that how our character's father here had sacrificed a lot for the people of his community, and as soon as he wasn't able to, as soon as something happened where he got hurt and he wasn't able to save people, all of a sudden that was put aside and everyone kind of turned against him. So I'll be interested to see what happens, because it seems like there was some sort of accident where a lot of people died, and in fact this woman came up and like slapped him like hard across the face because someone she cared about died in this accident. And I'm interested to see if it's just like he went to save people and wasn't able to, or if he in some way contributed to the destruction that killed these people. But the weird thing is, it seems his father doesn't actually have superhero powers, unless I read that wrong. But yes, that was a very long update for just 28 pages, but that was a lot of information that was kind of brought to us here in this first chapter, and we will see what happens moving forward now that our character has kind of discovered that he may have some powers, and on top of that, his team and his father have kind of discovered his queerness as well. So that is my update for now, and I will go ahead and check in with you probably around the 25% mark of this book, which I don't know if that'll be today. It would be nice if it was, because I would like to make as much progress as possible, especially if I want to keep with my goal of finishing this by Friday. So it is evening. I'm still going to do a little bit of reading tonight, but I am over a quarter of the way through. I'm on page 132, so I wanted to go ahead and check in. This is obviously a relatively quick read, which is good considering the goal I set for myself. Now that I've done a little bit more reading, I feel like I have a better idea of how things are working. I was a little bit confused in the beginning with like the whole book burning thing, which I still don't know. I still don't know if I misinterpreted that or if there's some sort of like restriction on what people can read. This definitely seems like a world that is very against queerness, which this book was written in 2007. And so I don't know if we're just living in like a pre legalizing queer marriage and all that jazz era, or if this is like a more extreme version of things. But like people really seem to be kind of homophobic, and I'm like, oh, that's very surprising. I feel like I haven't read too many books recently where a society is like that outright with their homophobia recently, but that is definitely happening right now. So it seems that at some point in history, I think it might have been like around World War II, people started developing superhero abilities. Only a few people, not everyone. And there's a bunch of different abilities out there. And this man had created the Justice League, and he was someone who had fought like the Nazis and stuff, which is why I'm assuming the superheroes kind of started around World War II. And he was actually the mentor of our main character's father, his father who doesn't have superpowers, but it seems that his father just trained really hard and maybe was even like in the military, and so was able to go ahead and join the superheroes despite not having any powers himself. And this mentor of his has gone ahead and retired and actually passed away at this point. And at some point, our character's father, something happened where he kind of lost the majority of his hand. He seemed to kind of have lost his place amongst the league. He also lost his sidekick. His sidekick kind of up and abandoned him, and so did his wife. So things are not looking good for this guy. And I can't feel like 100% bad for him because he's pretty homophobic. So I mean, I'm like, you know, kind of hard to have sympathy for someone like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, our character really wants his father's support and his love, and he is kind of reluctant to join the league because he doesn't want to disappoint his father. But at the same time, this is a huge opportunity for him, someone who's just kind of coming into his powers and really would like somewhere to be around people where he can learn more about what he can do. So at this point in the story, he has just gone through a trial to see if he can go through like a probation period with the league so they can kind of see if they would like him to be a part of the team, and he was approved for that, which isn't like a spoiler because it's in the synopsis that he joins a team of misfits, it seems like. And we have met a few of those characters, and one of them I don't like so far. Her name is Scarlet, and I mean, it does say here that Scarlet who can control her fire but not her anger. So, you know, she hopefully controls that a little bit more because she's already been a bit of a bully, which I'm not a big fan of. And on the other hand, there is Ruth, and she's like this really old lady who can see the future and just likes to go around smoking her cigarettes. So she's a vibe. And then there is Typhoid someone, I thought, Typhoid Larry, and he's someone who makes everyone sick when they touch him. And when our character shook his hand, he was kind of like, oh my god, you know, I really was happy that you shook my hand earlier. And our character is like, well, why wouldn't I? And then he like vomits because I guess because of his healing abilities, it takes that other guy's powers longer to like kick in or something. But either way, I am looking forward to learning more about those characters, learning more about some of the things that are going on in the league, because our character, every once in a while, he just gets like weird vibes about the league and the people in the league. It's almost like there's something in his head that is trying to warn him, but he doesn't really know what's going on or anything like that. He also, his mother, like I said, disappeared at some point, but he found some cryptic messages from her that kind of changed the way that he thought of his parents' past. So I'm interested to see if she's still around or like what's going on with that. There was also this other character called the Man in Black, I believe, who is like a vigilante who our character had interacted with during a bit of a villain attack, and this was kind of what introduced him to the superheroes because they eventually interfered in this villain attack as well and recognized his healing abilities and were like, hey, why don't you try out to be part of the League? And this man in black seems to be more of a vigilante that the superheroes don't actually like because they feel like he doesn't follow the rules and, you know, gives heroes a bad name. But this man in black seems to be kind of showing interest in our character, not in like a villainous way, but kind of in a, he might know some stuff that our hero yet doesn't know and wants to keep our character away from the heroes. Because like the synopsis said, there are some sketchy things that may be happening in the League, and it seems like this vigilante guy may know about that. So far a really quick read, really easy to just jump into the story and fall for a character. I think he's an interesting and fun character to follow. Looks like we're gonna have some fun side characters. I think that the pacing of the plot is relatively good. There's definitely some intrigue there that had me pretty much instantaneously absorbed into the story. This wasn't really one of those books where you're like, oh, you need a few chapters to get into it. I feel like I was into it like pretty much by the end of chapter 1. So that is good news. And I will go ahead and continue to do a little bit more reading tonight, and I will check in with you tomorrow. All right, coming at you at a weird angle because you are in my car. Now, if you were to look at these two little pieces of plastic, and you were to guess how much they cost, would you guess $450? Because that would be correct. So I just got done picking up my custom-made insoles. My health insurance does not cover them, so I have to pay. I think I was told about 2 years ago that I needed them, and I put it off for a long time, but unfortunately I have very flat feet and my like ankles turn in. I was born like, they called it pigeon-toed, where my feet were like facing inward, and I had to wear like little casts and little leg braces when I was an infant for a while. But for the most part, everything's normal except for the fact that my feet are a little flat and turn in, and so it causes some knee issues, which I don't want to get worse because I don't want to have knee surgery someday. But I did take off work early because my appointment was at 3:45, so I went ahead and took off work at 3 because they told me I needed an appointment, and then I showed up there and they were like, oh, you didn't need an appointment, and I was like, I took off work, so. But oh well. I am now at a cafe. Samira is what it's called. I've been here a couple times and they have really good chai lattes, so I'm hoping to sit down, do a little bit of a reading of Hero, and then I want to head downtown and do some walking around the lake and whatnot. And I am 270 pages into the book, so as you can see, I am over 50% through the book, and I'm having a really great time so far. There were like a couple things every once in a while where you can tell this is a slightly older book when they talk about certain people, like older people, fat people, sometimes even some things they say about women. Nothing like too terrible, like any huge red flags or anything, but still you're like, well, I don't feel like anyone would write that like nowadays. But unfortunately back in 2007 it was probably more of a normal opinion. But other than that, I've been having a really great time with the story. I'm really enjoying the pacing and the plot development. Where I left off, there was like this reveal, which I feel like isn't like super important to the story, but it still had me like, oh, I was like that cat from the Puss in Boots movie. I was like, oh my god. So that was really unexpected, and I do think that the plot is definitely escalating here in the second half, where there are, what does it say? I just checked the synopsis and it says that they uncover a deadly conspiracy in the League, and I will say, like, at this point some of the heroes have started to turn up dead, so it seems that someone is trying to kill off the heroes at this point, but that didn't happen until like the second half of the book. And I'm really interested to see kind of like who the villains within the League are, because I definitely feel like there's probably some people who are genuinely good and some who aren't. I feel like there's some obvious answers, but I'm always hesitant to go for the obvious answer because I'm like, would you make it that obvious, or are you gonna give us more of a twist here? But that being said, I'm still enjoying the side characters. We've learned a little bit more about Scarlet, who I was saying was kind of a bully, and you know, I still don't think that her behavior, sorry, helicopter is distracting me. I'm like my dad, I'm like, oh, it's a helicopter. She's definitely, I still think that her behavior isn't the most acceptable, but I can understand more why she's lashing out. And I'm also enjoying learning more about our character's powers and what he can do with them. So I'm looking forward to continuing to learn more about that and how he uses them. I mean, we don't have that many pages left, and I feel like there is still a whole lot that can go down. And as far as I know, this is a standalone, so I'm intrigued to see what happens in the next, how many pages are in here? So we still have about 140 pages left of the book, so we can make it work. I'm also intrigued to see about a relationship that our character was starting to have with that boy that he healed at the basketball game that I mentioned. They kind of had like a friendship going, and then something kind of caused that to go off the tracks. So I'm kind of wondering why that happened, because I feel like there's a couple of reasons it could have happened, but I'm not really sure exactly why, and how that all gets resolved will be intriguing as well. So I'm really having a good time. The story has definitely made me laugh quite a few times, and overall it's just a really bingeable story with a lot of action going, and so it's really easy to power through it. So I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy my chai, and then go for a walk and hopefully not melt, because it is really hot right now, especially sitting in my car here in the sun without the AC on. And then I will either check in with you tonight, or maybe I will check in with you tomorrow when I inevitably finish this book. Alright guys, so it is Thursday evening and I have finished my book. So hurrah, I finished it by Friday. I finished it before Friday, so awesome news for me. This was a really quick, addictive read. Like, I really could just sit down and read this for like hours at a time. I really enjoyed the pacing, plot development, character development, all that jazz that happened throughout this story. I think I'm gonna go ahead and give it a solid 4 stars because I had a fun time with it. Occasionally there were a couple things that aged the book, but nothing that I felt was like overly problematic that stood out to me. I did feel a little put off by the displays of homophobia within this book. I feel like I'm not as used to it in the books that I read. I'm unfortunately used to seeing it out in the real world, but like usually I feel like I'm not reading as many books where there's such blatant horrible homophobia from like the general population. Usually there's just like one bad person that you can just like punch in the mouth. So that put me off a little bit, but it was a part of the story. It's just a heads up on that. I also felt like the character's relationship with his parents could have been explored like a little bit more, but that being said, I did like the way that it all came together in the end. I thought that the ending was very climactic and exciting to read about, and I did like the way that it ended. I would definitely say that if you kind of like an underdog story, kind of one of those ragtag teams saves the world kind of situation, this is definitely your book. It also gives very much DC vibes. You could definitely tell some of the characters were based off of like Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, things like that. I would not consider this book a romance, but there is like a slight romance that is developed very slowly throughout this story and is very much like a side plot. So I would not pick this up for like a romance. I would very much say that it is more like a contemporary sci-fi story. And I really did enjoy the characters in here. Our character went through a lot, learned a lot about himself, started to really gain some self-confidence, and really started demanding respect. And the more that he kind of showed who he really was, the more that he attracted the right people and the respect from the right people as well. So liked that. Other than that, I don't think I have too much more to say on this book. I think I kind of touched on the fact that the father figure in this book was inspired by the author's father, who was a veteran of the Vietnam War. And I kind of asked my dad about that because I wasn't 100% sure on that. And my dad is a military man. He was in the army for 20 years, and so he knows a little bit more about that. He was a young boy when people were coming back from the Vietnam War, and he was like, yeah, unfortunately it was a very dark time in our history. A lot of people did not approve of that war, and they very much took their anger out on the veterans of the Vietnam War. They definitely did not get the accolades that a lot of soldiers from other wars may have gotten. He also talked a little bit about the fact that the VA was definitely not very good. The VA is kind of the hospital, I don't really know. It's the facility that's supposed to care for veterans when they come back and they get injured from war and they need care and whatnot. And back then it just was not a good place, not really up and running to its full capacity. And you can definitely see that the father figure in this book suffered with a lot of chronic pain, and also had, you know, a disability in the form of his hand having been essentially melted off and only had like 2 fingers left, and that very much left him at a disadvantage. But the government was not really able to assist him when it came to any sort of medical intervention. So there is some commentary on that in this book through that character, which I thought was good. I thought that Hal, the father, was a really complex figure that I have a lot of complicated feelings about. I kind of mentioned that I wished our character's story revolving around like his missing mother and his relationship with the father was developed a little bit more, because it definitely came across that his father was very ashamed of his son being homophobic. In the end, obviously, this being a queer joy story, that is resolved a little bit and whatnot, but I just needed a little bit more for me to fully support this character and the pain that he had caused his son by turning his back on his son when he really needed him. So I could have used a little bit more of that for him as well, but I also understand that this is someone who sacrificed a lot and received nothing but hatred in return, and really kind of let that eat away at who he is for years and years, and really had to pull himself out of that pit of despair that he had thrown himself in to save his relationship with his son. So a very good book. Despite being written so long ago, I think it held up relatively well. So really glad that I got around to reading this, and thank you TJ Klune for bringing my attention to it. And thank you to Half Price Books for happening to have this book while I was thinking about it. So that is the first of the 3 books here that I'm going to be reading. Now the second one, let me go grab it. The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune is the next book I'm going to be picking up. Now, a reminder, I'm doing a 48-hour readathon this weekend, so I will start this book tomorrow, and then I will have to put it down for a couple days while I do that. But I want to go ahead and get this wrapped up. I would love to finish this vlog by the 15th, which is the end of next week, and that is because Wonderthon is starting, and I'm kind of going back and forth if I want to kind of vlog my Wonderthon experience, and so I want to finish up this vlog so I have the option of doing that. But if it goes a little way into Wonderthon, that is okay as well. So this book is by TJ Klune. It's the first of a trilogy, duology, maybe? I never remember. But either way, we are following a young man who I believe has ADHD, and he is a huge fan of superheroes, despite the fact that he himself doesn't have any powers. I believe that he writes a fan fiction about a superhero, specifically a superhero that he has a big crush on, and it says, according to the back, that Nick Bell is not extraordinary, but being the most popular fan fiction writer in the Extraordinaries fandom isn't a bad start. So it seems like he is pretty good at what he does, but one day he actually has an encounter with the superhero that he likes so much, and he decides to see if he can try out this superhero thing for himself, and we will see how that goes. So I am a little nervous. I have to admit, when it comes to TJ Klune, I like his older stuff a little bit more than his newer stuff, but we will go ahead and see. I feel like this is a little different than kind of like The House in the Cerulean Sea, Under the Whispering Door, and The Lives of Puppets. Those are kind of, I don't want to say like they're in the same universe, but I feel like they're kind of in the same realm as each other, and this is separate. So I'm wondering if it'll be a little bit more to my taste, like with his Tales of Verenia series, his Green Creek series, and kind of like Into This River I Drowned, and what is it called? Bones Beneath My Skin. Yes, Bones Beneath My Skin. So we will see what I think. I feel like this text is kind of smallish. I feel like anytime I read a book with like slightly larger text, if I pick up a book with normal text, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, I can't read that. But anyway, I'm excited to give this a go. I will go ahead and start it tomorrow, and I will check in with you at the end of Friday to just give you my thoughts before I put the book down for a couple days. And then we'll pick back up hopefully on Monday, or whenever I finish up my last reads of the 48-hour readathon.
Falling to pieces in my room. Are you coming over? That's cool. I could use a little something to do. We could go outside, take a little ride if you want to. That's cool. I did what I was supposed to. There's nothing left for me to do. So now I'm poking out my head through open windows, 'cause that's what I feel like. Do it tonight. Waking up my brain, maybe you can do the same thing. You want me to say something, I come up with nothing. Maybe we can talk until we figure out a topic. Been so long in my head, caught up in my feelings. I've been waiting for.
So my mom got a new car, and she seems to have misplaced her garage clicker. So I have to close the garage for her, which caused me to notice that when my dad or mom painted the shelf, they kept the original color where me and my sister signed our name and said Natalie plus Clea equals a heart. Aww.
For something new to happen, and when it happens, I'll be dancing on the lawn when it happens. When it happens, I'll be dancing on the lawn when it want me to say something, I come up with nothing, maybe.
Alright guys, so we are outside, and as always I want to apologize if you can't hear me as well. I mean, I always hope that you can, but you never know. There's some unpleasant bird making lots of noise right now, and wind chimes and wind and all that jazz. But I wanted to go ahead and give you my initial thoughts for Extraordinaries before I jump into my lunch break, because unfortunately I will be spending my lunch break preparing or essentially doing chores that I would usually be doing on the weekend because I'm doing my 48-hour readathon. I gotta prepare for that. Also, my cat ate a bunny under the dining room table, which has a light colored carpet under it, so I gotta go scrub some blood stains out of there. Unfortunately, I don't know why he chose that place to eat. I mean, I would say it's because we eat there, but honestly we eat in front of the television a lot, so we probably only eat on the dining room table like 20% of the time. So I'm like, you can't eat in the kitchen where there's a tile floor that is easier to clean, but that's just the life of a cat mom. But that being said, I am 34 pages into this book. I'm a little way into a chapter 2 right now, and I'm having a really great time with the story. I really wish I could spend my lunch break reading it, but unfortunately we have other things to do, and it'll also be hard to put it down this weekend. But I've just really been loving TJ Kloon's humor, as I usually do. His character Nick is just a really quirky guy. He has ADHD, as I mentioned, and it just causes him to say really funny things. I can also tell that we are going to have a strong father-son relationship in this series, which, by the way, I looked it up. It's a trilogy, so there's 3 books. And TJ Kloon usually does father-son relationships really well, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Our character's father is a cop, and it seems that cops are not fans of the Extraordinaries. They think that they are a menace on society, that they are, you know, more vigilantes than superheroes, and that they need to be apprehended and thrown into jail. So obviously Nick and his father butt heads over that all the time, because Nick is obviously in love with one of those superheroes and writes fan fiction about him and is just like obsessed with him. It seems that Nick just recently came out as queer about a year ago. Luckily, it seems his father is very supportive about that. It seems that his mother is no longer in the photo or in the picture and I'm not sure yet quite why, if she passed away or if she left or what the situation with that is, but that's definitely something that he and his father are working through. On top of that, sorry, I have like bugs flying around my face. On top of that, Nick has 3 really close friends. He has Jazz, Gibby, and Seth. I keep wanting to say that that's not their actual name, but it is Gibby. Oh, it's like, that's not their name, that's a silly name. But their name is Gibby, and Gibby and Jazz are in a relationship with each other. They're 2 females, and Seth and Nick have been friends for a really long time. And I swear, like, the second that Seth was on page, I was like, he's Shadow Star, isn't he? Yet, like, I feel like he is, you know, like the second he stepped on with his glasses and his little curl of hair kind of over his forehead, and I was kind of like, yeah, that kind of reminds me of another superhero's disguise. So wonder what's up with that. It also seems that Seth usually is the one that kind of beta reads Nick's fan fiction, but he hasn't had time lately, and people have been saying that Shadow Star has been really busy lately, so I was like, makes sense to me. So really interested to see where that goes, especially considering that Seth seems to kind of have a crush on Nick, which Nick doesn't really seem to know or catch on to, despite the fact that his 2 female friends are like just watching the 2 of them and like, are you guys still doing this? Are you guys still dancing around each other? Okay, we're gonna have to go through another year of this, of you guys being completely obtuse about what is going on between you 2. But that being said, I am having a really fun time with this story. I have a feeling it's just going to make me laugh a lot, which is something that we all love to read about every now and then. I mean, every once in a while we like a sadder, gloomier, more difficult read, but this one definitely is more lighthearted, and especially considering how much homophobia the character in Hero faced, the fact that our character here has a supportive father and a supportive friend group is just really refreshing to read about after that. So those are my initial thoughts. I'm gonna go vacuum, clean up my cat's crime scene, and then I have to make a thumbnail and upload the video that's supposed to go up on Monday. And then I've been kind of going back and forth if I want to do any reading sprints this weekend. I really feel like I should. I made it one of my goals to do one reading sprint per quarter, and I haven't done that yet because my mental health was so bad the first quarter that I was kind of hoping to get back on that bandwagon, and considering I'm doing nothing but reading this weekend, I definitely should do that. So I kind of need to reacquaint myself with that system because I've only used it once like a year or two ago. So, and then kind of decide on when I want to do that. But that is some stuff I need to do today. I'm also planning on going to the gym, and I have to shower, wash my hair, all that jazz. So there's probably not going to be too much reading getting done, especially since I also need to finish the audiobook I'm working on, which is The Maid by Nita Prose. This book was on my May TBR, and I didn't finish it or get 50% through it. However, I had a reward from my TBR game where I could add an extra week to complete the book, and today is the last day of that extra week. And I still have about 3 hours left of that audiobook, so hopefully after I listen to that while I'm at the gym and stuff, then I won't have too much more to get through, and I can return to this book a little bit before I have to put it down for the weekend. But for now, I will most likely check in with you tonight just to kind of let you know where we are, and then I will see you again on Monday. All right, guys. I don't like to be in front of the camera when my hair is back like this because I feel like I don't have the face for it. But my hair is wet, and I just keep it in a little knot so it has some wavy stuff going on with it when I take it out tomorrow. But it is a Friday evening, so I'm just giving you guys my final update before I jump into my 48-hour readathon. I am on page 57 of The Extraordinaries. I'm continuing to have a great time. I haven't read too much more since I updated you guys, but one thing that TJ Klune does that I always like, because I just like it's so interesting, it's so much fun to watch, is when we are following a character that is like completely oblivious about the fact that someone within their life is like kind of in love with them. And that is the case with Nick and Seth. Like everything that Seth does, we as the reader can tell is his response to having like a massive crush on Nick, and Nick is just kind of like, I don't know how to interpret this behavior in Seth, but I'm just gonna go with it. And we're like, it means he has a crush on you. And Nick also sometimes, he has certain reactions to things that will show us that he potentially has feelings for Seth as well, that he just hasn't unpacked yet. And he's like, I don't know why I feel this way. And we're like, well, when a man likes another man, he gets mad when he thinks that other man is flirting with someone else. That's how it works. But yes, continuing to have a fun time. Sad to put this book down for the next couple of days, but I will go ahead and check in with you on Monday when I pick this book back up. So you guys won't be able to tell that a couple days have passed because the next clip will show up in the next few seconds, but still, I will see you in a few days. All right, guys, so we are back to this vlog, which to you means nothing because you never left the vlog, but to me, I was gone all weekend, and so I'm kind of just trying to plant myself back into this vlog. It is after work on Monday, so it's 5 o'clock, and I just wanted to go ahead and say hello again. I did a little bit of reading this morning. I was obviously finishing up my 48-hour readathon, and then I did a little bit of reading during my breaks and at lunch, and I'm on page 100 exactly. At this point, I'm continuing to enjoy it, continuing to laugh. It is a little awkward at times, but that's just the characters in TJ Klune's book. They just say things that give you secondhand embarrassment sometimes, but I am still having a wonderful time with it. We've kind of gotten to the part where our character Nick is like, oh, my next goal is to become an extraordinaire. All right, I'm sorry if the angle changed. My phone ran out of storage, but I always hate that, like, you delete items and then you run out of storage and you're like, that's because my phone is holding on to the last 355 videos and photos that I've deleted. Like, I deleted these for a reason. They don't need to be here anymore. But anyway, I went ahead and deleted my deleted photos, and so now there's room again. But I, of course, forgot what I was saying. I think I was talking about the fact that we are getting to the point where Nick has decided that he is wanting to become an extraordinary himself because he feels that will allow him to be closer to his superhero crush and also allow him to, like, live out his fan fiction dream. So I have a feeling that things are going to get a lot messier moving forward and that Nick is just going to get himself into a bunch of trouble and that his friends are just gonna have to do what they can to keep him alive because our guy he knows how to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. But yes, that is just a really quick update that I wanted to do. I don't know how much time I will have to read tonight because I really need to focus on editing my vlog that covers this last weekend because it needs to go up on Friday. So I'm gonna probably dedicate most of tonight to that, but I would like to do some reading of this just because I'm having a good time with it. And I will go ahead and check in with you. I would like to check in with you probably when I get around to the 50% mark. So there's just under 400 pages. So I would say around the 200 page mark. So I need to read another 100 pages or so before I check in with you again. Hopefully that's tomorrow, but we will see.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmation.
Right, so I just got done at the gym and hopefully no one can see me talking to myself here, but I have passed the 200 page mark of the Extraordinaries. I am on page 226 at this point, and I don't think I've too much more to say on it other than I'm continuing to enjoy it. The humor is good. Our character is kind of spiraling in a way. He's definitely feeling some insecurities about his ADHD and is not super happy with like his medication and all that jazz, and is hoping to become an extraordinary because he kind of thinks it's gonna fix everything. He's like, once I'm an extraordinary, I will be good enough. I will be with my crush, Shadow Star. I'll be able to protect my dad, his dad who's a cop, and ever since his mother passed away, he's always been really worried about losing his dad as well. And so he's like, if I'm a superhero, I protect the city, and if the city's safer, then those who protect the city, like the cops, are not in as much danger. And so he's kind of really getting desperate because obviously he's trying all of these ways to become an extraordinary, and it's not working because we don't really know how extraordinaries are made, and he's kind of just basing it off of things that he's seen in comic books, which even in this world are fiction. So our poor guy is going through a lot right now and he's kind of arguing with his dad. Things are kind of tense. Even things between him and Seth are a little bit tense because Seth continues to tell him, he's like, being a superhero is not going to solve everything, you know? It's not the end all be all that you think it is. It's a very difficult job, and that is just causing like a lot of tension between the two of them. And obviously, because he's in a bad place, he really needs the support of his friends right now, but at the same time, he seems to be doing some things through his panic and whatnot that's pushing his friends away a little bit. So hopefully he gets it together soon, both for his benefit and his relationship with his father and his friends' benefit as well. I don't foresee anything overly unpredictable happening in this book. Like, I kind of feel like I know who the superheroes are. I kind of feel like I know who the villains are. And I kind of feel like I understand some people's like motivations and things like that. But that's okay for me because I feel like I'm not going into this book for any like huge twists. This isn't a mystery. This isn't a thriller. This isn't like a high sci-fi or anything like this. This is just for a fun time, and that's exactly what I'm having. Like, anytime I'm reading this book, I'm smiling like 90% of the time, unless we go into like a darker moment. I feel like TJ Klune does a really good job of balancing humor with more emotional moments. Like, one second you're laughing and then the next second you're feeling sad because our character is missing his mother who passed away and things like that. And it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster that you can go through with TJ Klune's book. But that being said, that is where I'm at in the story. I would really like to continue reading. I'm kind of in the middle of a chapter right now, so I think I definitely want to go ahead and at least finish that chapter, but I could really afford to do a bit more editing tonight because I didn't finish it yesterday, and I also need to shower tonight, wash my hair, all that jazz. So I'm not sure how much more time I will have to read, but I will probably check in with you once I finish this story. I look like that little kid who has like that one piece of hair, but it's like it's staying down. Anyway, I absolutely love when I come on the camera and talk about, okay, this Ratatouille music is too loud. Let me pause it real quick. I'm listening to Ratatouille music. Anyway, I love when I come on the camera and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what's happening and I'm not going to be surprised. And now, like, in the next chapter, things have been happening where I'm like, wait, I think I might be wrong. So, not the first time that's happened to me, and won't be the last. But here we are. Things are taking unexpected turns, and either people are really good at throwing you off their scent, or I was wrong. So, we will see what goes down. So I just dropped off a Pango order. I don't share my Pango because I don't have a P.O. box, so I just gotta be safe, you know, better safe than sorry. But we don't have a printer at our house. We used to have one, but we barely ever used it, and so we got rid of it because it was always like, ink is dry, you know, because you never use it, so the ink dries out, and ink is like $50 a canister. So we were like, get rid of that. And I've been having my dad print it as work for me, but he's retiring. So I asked the post office, I was like, oh, can you print the little label for me? And I would provide the packaging and everything, and I would just tape it on there. And they're like, yeah, we can do that. It would be $2.50. And I thought they meant like with the packaging and everything. I was like, she's like, yeah, you just have to email it here and it would be $2.50 to print it off. I was like, $2.50 for a piece of paper. $2.50. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is ridiculous. I'm gonna see if I can get myself some sort of cheap printer. I really wish there was a library closer to me, but there's not. And usually with Pango, they want you to ship within like 2 to 3 days. So that's the only reason I don't want to say yes, I would use the library, because then I would be using at least $2.50 in gas. Well, I gotta figure out something, because that's crazy. Guys, so it is Wednesday evening and I have just finished The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and give it 4.5 stars. I had such a fun time with this book. I was just smiling most of the time. It had me laughing so often. The ending did take me a bit by surprise. I know I was sitting there all cocky like, yeah, I know exactly what's gonna happen. And then I was not right, which it happens. That being said, I thought the ending was really intense and fast-paced and exciting, and I really enjoy the way that the story ended. I'm not really sure where we're gonna go from here. I definitely feel like this could be a standalone, but I'm not complaining that we're gonna have some more fun with these characters. That being said, there is one little prediction I want to make. I'm not going to say it because it could be spoilery, but I'm like, I feel like stuff, you know? But I'm really excited to see if I'm correct about that, because if I am, that would be really interesting. But I really enjoyed the ADHD representation in this book. I thought it was relatively well done. TJ Klune himself has ADHD, so that's not a surprise. I thought that the romance was really sweet once it started to develop, and I really enjoyed his relationship with his father as well, and I just thought all his friends were wonderful. There was this one character where I just like never knew what to think about them, and I was just kind of like, should I like them? Should I not like them? I feel like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, sometimes I trust them, sometimes I don't. So in a way, this book did have me on my toes a little bit. So 4.5 stars, really glad. I feel like I haven't been the happiest with TJ Klune's newer work, so I'm really excited that I like this, and I'll have to get my hands on the second book so that I can continue the series as soon as possible. All right, so that being said, we're going to move on to our final book, which is Lovesick Gods by Amanda Moyweisen. And this is the book that I was the most nervous about because it's a KU book, so I need to go ahead and get my KU subscription up and going. And also, I have only heard one person talk about it, and that was the one person that recommended it. And when it comes to books like that, you know, sometimes it's a hidden gem and sometimes people don't talk about it because it's not worth talking about. So I really have no idea what to think going into this. I feel like I remember it having a relatively high average rating, so maybe that's a good sign. But I really don't know much about this book other than it's a male-male romance, that we are following superheroes that seem to have elemental-based powers, and that we're following a hero who seems to fall in love with the villain. So that seems right up my alley. I did not check how long this book is. Let me actually just pull it up on Goodreads real quick. I have 10,000 tabs open right now because that's just how it goes. So let me pull up, and there's also a fly that's been flying around this whole time because it's that time of year, so I'm sorry if you've been hearing it buzz, but it's driving me crazy. So Lovesick Gods, is that what it was called? Am I hallucinating? Okay, so it has a 4.29 average rating, so that is pretty good. I mean, it only has 7 ratings on Goodreads, but still, that's a high rating, and it says it's 371 pages on Kindle. So can I finish it by Friday? Because I was still kind of hoping to finish it before Wonderthon starts on the 15th. But we will see. It depends on how good it is and how much I can power through it and whatnot. But yes, that is the next book I'm going to be reading. I do need to go ahead and have dinner, and then I need to watch my vlog to kind of watch it through and make sure that it's all okay and everything. And then I need to make a thumbnail, because if there's one thing that I always forget to do. It's take pictures for a thumbnail for my vlogs. I'm always like finishing editing the vlog and then I'm like, I don't have anything for a thumbnail. What am I gonna do? So that is what I got to do tonight, and if I have time I will go ahead and start that book, and once I get a little ways into it I will give you my initial thoughts on it. All right guys, so it is Thursday morning, a little after 9 o'clock. I'm taking a little break from my work to give you an update. I am 15% through Lovesick Gods, page 58, and now that I've read a little bit more, kind of figured out what is going on, I figured I'd give you a better synopsis and my initial thoughts on the book. So in this book we are following Danny, or is it Denny? I think it was Danny. Danny, who is Zeus, who is a hero of the city of Olympus, and he is able to use the power of electricity, and he also has the ability to heal a little bit faster than other people. On the other hand, we are following Mal, and he has the ability of water, specifically ice abilities, and he is kind of a villain, and he has a group of people that he works with and kind of rules over, and they are thieves. That's kind of their specialty. They're not killing people or anything like that. They're sneaking in, stealing stuff. They're kind of not really a mob. He's not like a tyrant or anything. He's just kind of like, hey, you know, if you want to cause some trouble, make some money, steal some stuff, you know, join us and we'll have a good time doing it. That's kind of their specialty. So he and Zeus have kind of butted heads in the past, but they were always kind of like bantering with each other, and it wasn't too serious because I think Mal goes by Prometheus as his alter ego, and he never caused like too much damage or hurt people or anything, so Zeus was never like out to get him or anything like that. And in this world it seems that everybody has an affinity for a certain element, or they're leaning, as they say, towards a certain element, which is like air, fire, water, earth, light, dark, and metal. And while only a very small percentage of people are as strong as, say, like Prometheus and Zeus, everyone does have a slight affinity to it. Like people who are metal leaning might be like better with technology, or people who are water leaning can hold their breath underwater longer, or people who are air leaning can like dance better because they are light on their feet, things like that. It seems like most people kind of figure out their powers at a relatively young age. However, our main character Zeus, or Danny, discovered it after this villain whose powers were dark killed his partner, because he's a detective, and his powers kind of came out as he tried to defend himself because this villain tried to kill him. And so he decided to become a superhero to avenge his friend and to take down this villain, because unlike a lot of the other villainous people, this guy was just destroying things, killing people left and right, and didn't really have a goal. And so he actually went to Prometheus and was like, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble taking this guy down. Can you come and help me with this? And Prometheus was like, sure, you know, he's getting a little close to my territory. I don't want to mess with my people, so we'll take him out. And then Prometheus didn't show up. So this is like all from the very beginning. Like in the first chapter, you figure this out. You figure out that they're having beef because Prometheus didn't show up. And while Zeus seemed to have defeated this villain, a lot of people died, including his mother. So he's not very happy with Prometheus for kind of abusing his trust like that and leaving him hanging, and obviously leading to the death of his mother. And I don't know if Prometheus knows that his mother died during this accident, because while he's like, hey, you know, it happened, he doesn't seem to be taking it that seriously that he didn't show up. And I'm curious to see why he didn't show up, because it doesn't seem like he didn't show up because he just didn't want to. I'm assuming something got in the way. But that being said, Zeus has not been doing so good. He's had a lot of anger the last 6 months since he developed his powers and his mother died and all that stuff. He has just been really sad, he's been lonely, he's been angry, he's been tired, he's been doing his detective work and his superhero work, and he's like, it never ends. And he's been lashing out because I guess people who have lightning as a power are kind of a bit emotionally volatile at times, and the people on his superhero team are kind of like, hey dude, you need to chill out a little bit, okay? You know, I know the villains deserve to be caught, but you don't need to like punch them in the face 5 times or anything like that. The villain said, no more please, I give up, and you still punched him in the face. So, you know, you need to take like a vacation or something, or chillax, or find yourself a friend with benefits or something. And since our hero here is out of vacation leave, he decides he's gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as in get himself a friend with benefits and get revenge on Prometheus. So he noticed that Prometheus is kind of into him, so he's like, you know what, I need someone to sleep with. Prometheus is hot. I'm going to sleep with him. I'm going to make him fall in love with me. And then I'm going to break his heart because he broke mine by betraying me and leading to my mother's death. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work out the way you think it is, but you know, let's go for it. So we're going to have some hate sex going on. We'll see how that goes. I will say I thought there would be a little bit more sexual tension and a little bit more drawn out will they, won't they moments in this book, but it definitely seems like they're going to get down and dirty from the beginning. Okay, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying so far it seems like this isn't going to be a slow burn or anything like that, so I will see how I enjoy that. That being said, the last chapter made it sound like there's a new villain on the streets, and it was from his point of view, and he was like, once I get this money, I'm gonna really take over this city. So I'm assuming that our characters are going to have to deal with this guy, this cocky guy who's coming in thinking he's the big cheese, and they'll probably have to team up to do so. So far, intrigued by the story to see where it goes. The writing is decent. It's not terrible, so that's always a good thing when it comes to self-published books. It seems like this is relatively well edited and things like that, and I'm enjoying the characters and where the plot is going. So those are my initial thoughts on the book. I need to return to work, and I will check in with you later. Gotta be honest, I feel like our Zeus character is a little bit in denial. He's all like, oh my gosh, it's so easy to seduce Mal. It's so easy to get him to kiss me. Like, he clearly wants me, and I'm gonna have him wrapped around my finger and in love with me in no time, and then I can break his heart, and it's just such a simple task, and I should probably kiss him goodbye when I leave to make sure that he really falls for me. And oh, why do my powers seem to like respond to him in such a way? Like, it never did that with all my other lovers, but it must be because he has, you know, strong elemental powers and they didn't. And so this is like a totally normal reaction between 2 strong elementals, and I'm like, Sure. Let's go with that.
I'm still in love with my ex and it's just my luck. Wish I didn't care so much, cause me and her don't make sense and it fucks me up. I'm still in love but love sucks. Before you and I, what was hers was mine. And I'm sorry, I swear I thought that my heart was ready, but I can't keep her off my mind. And I'm not alright. I had a thought when I was faded, why they call it love when you hate it. I'm still in love with my ex and it's just my luck. Wish I didn't care so much, cause me and her don't make sense and it bugs me up. I'm still in love but love sucks. Love sucks.
Alright guys, so it is a Friday afternoon. I only have like 5 minutes until my lunch break is over, but I have officially reached the 50% mark of the book, specifically 52%, page 196. So I just want to do a quick check-in. I'm continuing to enjoy the story. It's definitely not what I was thinking it would be with the hero villain kind of situation. I would not consider this an enemies to lovers. It was more like a nemesis to lovers situation, and they were always really bantery with each other even from the beginning and always enjoyed battling each other. So there was never really any hate or even that much dislike between the two of them. That being said, I thought that the smut scene that we've had so far was really good. So there's that. Other than that, I would say that the plot is decent. It's nothing like mind-blowing or anything like that. Our character Zeus is definitely struggling emotionally. He's really grieving. He's feeling a lot of insecurities and disappointment in both himself as well as I think in Mal for not showing up to help him that day and causing his mother to die. So he's blaming himself a lot and blaming Mal, but also having very complicated feelings about Mal because it's really obvious that he has strong feelings for him. And he keeps kind of like denying that, but at the same time, as the reader, you're like, yeah, no, you really like him and you respect him and things like that. But all of those like complicated feelings of his are turning into anger. And I don't know if it's just because he's repressing too much and he's not really talking to people. And right now, the only way that he's really going out there and kind of letting off steam is by sleeping with Mal, which, you know, it's great to have a way to release pent-up energy, but talking about your feelings is also really important. And he's kind of avoiding his family because he just feels like he let them down by not being able to save his mother. So he's just going through a lot right now, and he is just getting angrier and angrier and is seeming to kind of lose a bit of control every now and then, which is probably not the greatest thing for a hero to be doing. So we will see what comes of that. But other than that, I would say that villain is making more moves, and he definitely seems to want the attention of the city as well as of the hero Zeus. What his motives are, what his past is, I'm not really sure. It seems like he may potentially have a connection to another villain, which would be curious because they said that the body of that villain was never found. So there's a bit of a mystery there as well. I'm assuming that he is dead, but you never know. When there's no body, things could happen. But yeah, no, I'm having a good time with the story. I would say it's a pretty easy, quick read, nothing too deep. Sometimes it is feeling a little bit surface level and whatnot, but I am having a decent time with it and am looking forward to seeing what happens here in the second half of the story. Not optimistic that I'm going to go ahead and finish it today, but hopefully I finish it by the time this weekend ends. I do have some things planned for this weekend for Father's Day. Tomorrow we're heading up to Seattle, and then obviously on Sunday I need to go ahead and do my filming and stuff for the week to come. I believe this upcoming week I'm actually only gonna have one video posted because just with how busy this weekend is, but I'll also be busy next weekend. But this vlog, I didn't want to kind of confine myself to edit it this weekend because I just feel like it's gonna take a while. So this vlog shouldn't be coming out until the end of the month. But that being said, got stuff to do, but obviously gonna see how much I can read of this, and I will probably not check in with you again until I'm finished with the book, just because I haven't had too much to say about it, and we'll eventually start getting into spoiler territory now that we're in the second half. But I will see ya when I see ya.
Sucks. Let me lay you in inside my brain, cause I don't really have the heart to say. Take a look in there, tell me if it's anything you wanna fuck with. Probably not. Honestly, you'll never take a place when I look at you, I see your face. Yeah, 6 a.m. we're taking shots in the morning up on the counter. Like, oh my god.
Had a thought when I was faded. Why they call it love when you hate it?
I'm still in love with my ex and it's just my luck. Wish I didn't care so much, cause me and her don't make sense and it bugs me up. I'm still in love but love sucks. Love sucks. And I'm sorry, I swear I thought that my heart was ready, but I can't keep her off my mind. And I'm sorry, you want me, I want her, she don't want me, but I can't keep her off my mind. Love sucks.
I didn't get hurt. Told me all the things that she loves about this place. Empty inside and there's not much space. Sat next to me and she looked me in the face. Till she wants to say, oh, so tell me where you go. Tell me where you go. Take me to your home. I haven't had a home in a while. Tell me where you go. Oh, tell me where you go. Take me to your home. I haven't had a home in a while. Tell me all your fears. What makes you wonder why we are here? Questions that remind you and bring you to your tears. Never talk about it, 'cause no one wants to hear. I never talk to people, so tell me where you go. Tell me where you go. Take me to your home.
Alright guys, so it is late Sunday afternoon and I have just finished Lovesick Gods, so I am here to wrap up this vlog and give you my final thoughts on this book. So I definitely think that the last quarter of the book was more exciting and intense than the remainder of the book, and I really did enjoy the relationship development throughout the story. I thought it was really sweet. They were really cute together and everything like that. And eventually I got used to the idea that this wasn't going to be the enemies to lovers situation that I was expecting going into it, and that's totally fine. That being said, I expected this to kind of be a 3.5 star read once I got a little way into it, and I am gonna go ahead and stick with that rating. It's a relatively high 3.5, but it doesn't quite feel like a 4-star read, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with that rating. I think that the story was a little bit on the basic side. I think that I also had some struggles liking our character Danny, also known as Zeus, a lot. He was really going through a lot of personal stuff, like emotion wise, and he just was not communicating with people. It's like every time he talked to someone, he's like, yeah, that made me feel better, but then he would continue not to communicate with people. And like even by the end of this book, which is part 1 of the story, there was still a lot of things that he was keeping from Mal or Prometheus. And I was like, I feel like considering where things are going, you need to go ahead and open up to him. You can't be like, I'll tell him tomorrow, because that never works out. there is never tomorrow when you say things like that. So that was a little bit frustrating. His behavior was a little frustrating, and there is a little bit of an age gap. I don't remember if I mentioned that, where Danny is around 28 years old and Mal is closer to 37, 38. So there's about a 10-year gap between them. And I felt like when it came to emotional maturity, you could definitely see the gap between the two of them. And surprisingly, I felt like Mal was the one that was working harder to kind of like keep the relationship going and to really help Danny go through what he was going through. And I feel like after all of that, Danny should have trusted Mal a little bit more with like really giving him his true emotions and everything. So hopefully we get some more of that in the second book, because there's certain things like the reason Danny went into a relationship with Mal, which was to in turn break his heart and get revenge, which obviously by the end of the story is not the case, but he never told Mal that was the original reason that he started dating him. And that's one of those secrets, like the longer you keep it, the worse it's going to be once you actually reveal it. So I was just kind of like, oh my god, like why are you not telling him this? But that being said, I'm intrigued to see where things go in the second book. I think that the villain is an interesting character, and that his powers are interesting and definitely makes him a threat to our character. So I think he's a good villain character. Other than that, plot wise, writing wise, it's all kind of middle of the road, simplistic, makes it a simple, fun read, and that's what this was. And I had a good time with it. Again, smut was good, so I think a 3.5 is the way to go. That being said, that is the end of this vlog. I think we had a pretty good time. I didn't really know what to expect because I don't consider myself a huge superhero fan. Usually I prefer like the Marvel universe, while these superhero books are more based off of like DC, kind of like Superman kind of vibes. And I've never been a huge Superman fan, to be honest. He was always so like a goody two-shoes kind of guy, which I've always been more like Batman, Iron Man kind of situation is more what I've enjoyed. But that being said, I've really had a good time with these books. Just as a quick refresher, we started off this video by reading Hero by Perry Moore, and I gave this 4 stars. And then we read The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune, which I gave 4.5 stars. So all of these had different ratings. Obviously, if I were to put them in order from least favorite to favorite, it would be the Lovesick Gods, Hero, and then The Extraordinaries as my favorite. So I'm really glad that I finally got around to doing this vlog. I definitely had it on my to-do list since back in 2023, and I had a really fun time with it. I hope you guys had a fun time with it as well. I would love to know if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts were, and also if there are any superhero books that you have really enjoyed reading. As always, guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!